This week in Hey the Parents, we are talking all about the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and all those little white lies that we tell our children as parents. Because when it comes time to survive, get out the door, get to sleep on time, and so much more, we have to resort to moments such as these. So in this episode of Hey the Parents, we call it Fantastical Beasts and Lies We Tell Our Children. We take an honest look at ourselves and ask the ultimate question, up to lie or not to lie? And of course, we talk about when we were parents, mishaps with our own kids, because in Hey the Parents, it's an honest discussion about raising kids. I'm Michael Height.
I'm Sara D.
And I'm Mike Levine.
Kids don't come with a handbook, so we need your help.
Where do babies come from?
Where do you think they come from?
Is this a kissing book?
Mama! Mama!
What?
Hi.
I learned it by watching you.
There are no rules in this house. Not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom.
We sent them to the best boarding schools. We hired the best nannies. We did everything right.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf!
No drinking, no drugs, no kissing, no tattoos, no piercings, no ritual animal slaughters of any kind.
Together, we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
This is Hey Other Parents, an honest, messy, imperfect show for raising kids.
Hey, welcome back.
What's
It's
up?
us again.
Well, hello there.
Hey, Sara D.
How's it going?
Toodly-doo.
Toodaloo.
What's going on? So we're here. We're doing it again. Welcome back. We are so glad that you came to hang out with us. We figured out this parenting thing. Whether you were in the car, folding laundry, cooking dinner, getting organized, dealing with the fallout of Halloween, or on the go, we know that you'll have a lot of choices for podcasts out there, so thank you for listening to ours. We'd like to send a big welcome to our new moms and dads listening, a big hearty hello to the returning listeners who are back to put up with us yet again for season 2. So if this is your first time joining us in this podcast, Hey the Parents, it's a chance for a few of us parents who decided that we need to join our efforts together to try and get through this, as we call it, a survival course. We pick a different theme or topic each week where we discuss it from the standpoint of when we were younger, what we grew up with our own parents, and then we shift on over to now as adults, where we did not get a handbook for our own kids. We talk about what we go through, we share some of our experiences, and we learn from each other, and every week we feel a little bit better because we have each other and we have all of you. So if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, we'll tell you a little later in the show and how you can get in touch with us here. But without further ado, we are going to jump right in to the main part of the podcast, and that entails the topic of the week.
Oh, man.
Sara D. So here we go. We've arrived at this topic. What do we got?
I love the title that we gave it, Fantastical Beasts.
That's half the fun, right?
But, you know, parents, we tell these little lies to our children, whether it's Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, and any other little creatures you may have, gnomes that clean the kitchen. To keep things like magical, fun, and or just to get our lives a little easier to explain the nonstop questions that we have constantly. So, we're going to debate about that, I think, because there is apparently a big debate about lying to your kids and not, whether it's for the better good or not.
Right. Because at some point, and I think this happens like in your case, it might be a little different than my case because my kids are a little closer in age, but you had that experience where you kind of had to raise some family members a little bit older. So you've seen the full scope of like starting little, getting older, getting to a certain point where like maybe the whole, the landscape changes and they have different opinions about maybe, the Tooth Fairy and such, while you still have the little ones in the house. So this is definitely kind of a fun one because
yes,
I'm popping out a little bit the other side now with my older guy. So there's definitely, some moments where you're like, huh, all right. Well, now at some point they're going to be aware. So this is good. So we're going to give a little bit of a warning for those parents who are listening in the car, maybe at full volume, because I know that kids love nothing more than to listening to a parenting podcast with you. We are going to be talking about a couple of things that maybe have some mythology around them when it comes to certain characters. And if you perhaps are concerned about full disclosure of maybe talking about how those things might be different for an older person, maybe you might want to skip ahead in this episode. But if that's something that you're okay with, or you're just like, rip the Band-Aid off right away, then you could just keep on playing. So on that note, okay, so Sara, let's get into this one a little bit. So I think that as for us to kind of get the full scope of it, we have to kind of like get into the feeling of when we were at that age, when we were younger.
Man, yep.
And maybe we could start with the whole the Tooth Fairy situation, right?
Yeah, I feel like when I think about all those memories, they always bring like joy to my heart. So with the Tooth Fairy, she always came, and it was always like a quarter or $1, and it was very exciting. And then I don't think my parents were like very elaborate about it. They just kind of like talked about how the tooth fairy came, took your tooth, and that was about it. And one time I caught my dad, like I was sleeping and I was like face sleeping because I'm like, I'm going to wait for this tooth fairy to come, and like drop off her money to me. And I see my dad come in and he like lifts up the pillow and I'm like pretending I'm sleeping and I hear the money rustling. He leaves. So I like put my hand underneath the pillow and I was like, oh, he's the tooth fairy. And I was like, it was like a moment of like, And I don't know, I was like fearful to say that he was a tooth fairy. Like it was never going to come back. But like, it was like, I don't know. It was just like this feeling of like, oh.
I guess I'm growing up now.
So it's not something, because in my head, I thought the tooth fairy was going to be like this like pink princess fairy that just comes down all magical and like sparkly. And she like drops off your dollar bills and gets your teeth.
But like the whole thing as a kid is like the mythology is that you're not supposed to see it. So it's kind of almost like the Indiana Jones and the and the part one where like you're not supposed to open your eyes because you get a melted face. But like you're not supposed to be able to see the tooth fairy. You don't know what she actually or he or whatever looks like. But in your mind, I feel the same way. Like sparkly goodness flying through the air, dropping things off. At first, I thought you were going to say, like, you're waiting for your dad. He reached under the pillow and you grabbed his hand. And I'm like, oh, my God.
Imagine if I did. I'm like, where are you going with my tooth?
You're telling me that you actually work for the tooth fairy?
Wait, you're giving me the dollars? I need $5. What?
I think you might have taken some money away from the real tooth fairy along the way. But that's crazy because, like, I felt like that, too. Like, there's definitely, when you think about it, I really, really wonder if, I mean, this is probably, like, every parent's like, duh, obviously. But I wonder if like the whole gift giving and the money thing is to like sort of like take the part away that how freaked out you are that just a tooth came into your mouth and there's like a little blood and stuff. Like it's more of like I will remember the dollars instead of what just happened prior to that.
Right, and I'll be excited that my tooth is falling out of my face.
Because as they get older, the molars get kind of big.
Yeah.
So you kind of like, that involves like a little washing of some salt water,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, we didn't even, we didn't research the lore on that. We should have. Oh, well. Next episode.
That's the thing about listening to us is that we just we're like you guys. We kind of go along with it.
But I like our story better.
I like our story better. So now I also had another thing that I thought we would talk about too is, I don't know specifically like if every parent is like this, but for me, I could remember the moment when my parents took away my stuffed animals. And like that was without a doubt was 100% like fits into the context of this episode because I remember having like a really low key, no big deal sick day. And like it wasn't the flu. It wasn't like strep throat. It wasn't really anything major. Had a little cold, had something. I think my parents already made up their mind and they were like waiting for this to come. And they were like, oh, you're sick. We better take all the stuffed animals off and clean them up. They never came back. So that was
serious?
Yes.
Did you have like lice or something, or
no? I'm saying they used it as an excuse to take them off the bed.
No, but I'm just saying like
nothing.
No, there was just no justification.
No, they put them in bags and stuff. It wasn't like, and then they left a little ransom note in different magazine letter cutouts. We have your pound pup. No, I'm kidding.
No, they did. I was like, oh my god.
So no, but like that was like I feel like maybe that was like growing up in the 80s, 90s, but like I think there was such a big like this big like I don't know, maybe just parents weren't like ready to deal with the idea of like having kids that maybe were gay or whatever else. I'm heterosexual, but I think that growing up, they probably thought like, well, we can't let, a boy have stuffed animals too long because like he might get kind of girly or like that might be like one of those things where we better yank these out of his hands before he cares about them too much.
Correct.
But I'm like, but I miss them. So I remember that being like a big moment. And they also, I laughed too because my bed, all this happened in like one big shot. It's very, very, jarring. So they took the stuffed animals. And then my bed went from like the wall to the middle of the room to make it like a big boy room. And it was like what? Now that I'm older, I could fall off the bed on two sides?
On both sides.
I don't understand this. But do you remember like, did you have anything like that where like, it was like, well, now we don't play with these things. So now they're coming with us.
No, I wish
or did
I
you?
did.
Were you talking about the Barbie
episode with the Barbie dolls?
Yes,
I was totally far behind. I think my mom should have said something to me because
now that you're 27,
like
we should probably take your Barbie dolls.
I could be like a social pariah, with my Barbie dolls to 9th grade.
I know it's funny because like now that we're gonna kind of take this episode a little differently. We're gonna go kind of like topic by topic and go back and forth a little bit because we have different like mini topics. We're gonna try that. Tell us listeners if you think this works or not. We're gonna try to do like little mini parts of this episode with different topics. But one of the things that we've now found as parents is with our kids, we really, and I think like I was growing up thinking about my parents and kind of like, well, at a certain point, maybe start to like shift them out of the room or whatever else. But like my wife was like, what does it really matter? Like, does it really matter And I don't know whatever happened. We had no involvement with this. So Jacob is now in 7th grade. And I think going into 7th grade, he kind of wanted to take the stuffed animals off his bed.
Oh,
and
okay.
at first, like, at first it was like the stuffed animals were there, like, but they were not like, you know, like, it wasn't like his room looked like, you know, like you could lay down and there was no bed, there's only stuffed animals.
Right.
But he had like we would get them like, you know, like what are they called? Beanie Boos?
The Beanie Boos,
I mean, like
yes.
whenever they're sick or like
Yep.
they had like an event or we got the shots,
Yeah.
we'd buy them one from
A
the
Beanie
store.
Boo.
So
Yeah.
like on the bed, on the bunk bed, it was kind of like surrounding the top. Like they were all staring, like almost like watching like an auditorium. Oh, this person's sleeping. We're all
With
watching.
his big
So-
eyes.
Yes.
They were keeping
Yeah,
watch.
they always have those big, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's all thing like, does the tag come off? Does it stay on?
Yeah.
They don't call them that name anyway. It doesn't matter. So anyway,
Yeah.
so those are there, and then stay on topic, height. So then they slowly, the main animals, stuffed animals like the teddy bears we got when they were younger, like the you know, from the teddy bear workshop, whatever it's called, like those sort of went into the closet all of a sudden. We're like, oh, all right. And then the Beanie Boos went, and then it was like, I think he kept like one stuffed animal that, like, you know, teddy bear that we got when he was younger that made him happy, but on his own he kind of moved them all, and we're like, all right.
Okay.
And then in the same room, Ethan shares the bunk bed, so then he is now in 4th grade, and I think it was a reaction to Jacob where he didn't take them kind of off his bed, in a sense. What we got is like this kind of like a hammocky kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't know what you call it, but like it's attached to like the bunk on top,
toy
and all the
hammock.
stuffed animals are in. Oh, what a concept! A toy hammock, man. You put a word before hammock, and it has a different purpose. I want like a snack hammock. So we put them all in there, and it probably has way more weight than it actually should hold.
Yes.
And all the stuffed animals are basically in there, with like the exception of like 1 or 2.
Just hanging out.
But like that was different because like we didn't initiate that, and I don't know if we're right or wrong, but like my wife was like, just let him be, and I'm like, oh, you know what harm is it gonna do to really?
Right,
We're not gonna change anything or do anything. Who
when
cares?
He was ready to
Yes.
let go of it.
What a concept, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Instead of
so that's
just
kind of where we're
dramatically
at.
taking away in plastic.
Yeah,
bags.
but
No offense
parents on the other
to
side too
Grandma and
now,
Grandpa Hype.
we're gonna have to go to some white lies because now Noah has so many stuffed animals now that when that time comes, I mean, like this kid has like 4 basically stuffed animal hampers of
there you
not
go.
regular hampers of stuffed animals. Are all because of the situation, with the exception of like Ethan's in there, but it's crazy. I know you said the Barbie dolls are like,
yeah, the Barbie dolls when I was a kid.
or like with your kids,
with my
have
kids.
they shifted anything
so
over now?
With Julian and Sophia. So with Sophia, she was totally obsessed with like
Or their
LOL
collectibles.
dolls and like yes, the collectibles. And she did the same thing like Jake too, like Jacob did, where she just decided just to put things away and like move things around, and they kind of just disappeared slowly. But I never had to tell her, like, you know, to give them away. I also didn't think to cross my mind.
Right.
I figured she would just know when she was ready.
Yeah.
Obviously, if she was in 9th grade,
Yeah, then that would be.
then I would have been
Right.
like, "Hey, girl, what are we doing with these these dolls?" Because I used to tell her my story
Right.
about you know, like LOLs and the Barbie dolls, and making sure that she's not, you know, gonna mention like, "Hey guys, let's get all our dolls together and play."
So when it felt natural, it was like the time for her to kind of move
Yeah,
on.
and then same thing with Julian. I think Jean started mentioning to him like, "Hey, what are you gonna do with all these stuffed animals? They're like kind of all over the place." And Julian like loves to sleep on top of him because he
Yeah.
was obsessed with Squishmallows.
Aw.
So like
They
he's-
are kinda comfy.
Yeah, they're so comfortable, and like he would just like sleep on top of them, around him, and he's so cute. He was like, "Mom, I'm gonna keep them upstairs in the attic for my children,"
Aw.
and I was like, "Oh, they're gonna be like rotted by the time they get there." But sure,
You
So
know,
they're-
that's where things go to die.
yes, it gets forgotten. So they're in a plastic bag upstairs in the attic, just waiting for the day that his children are gonna be like, "Dad, can I have one of your Squishmallows?" And he's gonna be like, "Yes, son, I have one."
Of course you can. They're actually worth something, so you can't have them. No. Oh man! And then what about like I think about when they get a little bit older and like they have I had some in my brain, but it made total sense. Now it's gone. That's right. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. I remembered. Okay, so I don't know if this became a thing with you as well, but like when you because pets, unfortunately, they pass away.
Oh yes.
And things happen.
Oh, the pets.
Like, you know, obviously there's a farm upstate New York situation.
Yes.
There's other things.
Yes, that's
When I was
right.
younger, my parents didn't. I think it had something to do maybe with my grandfather dying when I was 5 or 6. So I think like they addressed that in some way, and maybe like after that occurred, then, you know, when we lost a bird or we had fish, that was obviously, you know, fish die rapidly.
Yes.
Toilet bowl funerals are kind of how that goes. But the fish, not my grandfather. So with that, I feel like because of grandfather's situation, I think when like an animal like a bird would pass away, I don't think they cut any they didn't bother coming up with some elaborate story.
Right.
It was like, your bird's dead. And it was like, okay, thanks.
Oh, wow.
Is it okay if I cry? Am I allowed to do that? So I feel like that we didn't have that experience of like the situation. And then I remember when our kids, when my wife's parents, their dog passed away, we were like, okay, how do we deal with this? And we were like looking up online, like, how do you do it? What should you say? And then it was like very glaringly obvious of like, you do not use any like creative phrases or like, a better place. You can't say that, it doesn't make sense to a kid. So like, we actually were like full out, like, yeah, this happened, the dog passed away or would die, whatever. And we just told them straight out, because it was like, we're going to follow the article. And what was interesting was like, they said that you could like, with young kids, like, it may be like almost no reaction or some reaction, and they may seem like they never have a reaction, or something could happen like months later where they get upset.
Right.
But I remember as a kid, I think like knowing like, boom, the bird's dead. They remember like having this like cathartic moment where I was like, are we all gonna die?
Right.
Is everyone gonna die at some point?
Like,
oh my God, am I gonna die? And it was like, that whole big
Right.
like jarring moment of all the things that you like, hear about like on TV and kids and like everything else. So I think that was like, we're snapping right into the death conversation. How did you guys deal with any of that?
Toughen up.
Right. What about you guys?
Well, so I think I've told this story before in our pet episode.
Yeah.
But so my dog, what was it? Who was it?
Oh, that's right. We're about visiting the dog in a faraway land in Pennsylvania, right?
Wait. We went to Pennsylvania. So poor little Max. When I was younger, we had a dog named Max.
Now
He
the dog's
passed
name is like
away.
Jebediah. He's in like Pennsylvania, like Amish country.
He's in Amish country,
Yeah.
churning butter. So I was thinking about poor little Max every time in Pennsylvania, and our parents were like, "Oh no, yeah, he's probably so busy."
They're probably like 20 miles away. Can we just go?
And we like look for him every time we pass the farm and stuff like that. So
We know you want to get some fresh jam, so we're not going to see Max this time.
and then I was like, and it honestly, it really did take me until like I was like my 20s to be like, Mom, wait, did Max didn't go to Amish? She's like, no, Sarah. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't realize that. So she never revealed.
No, Sarah, he was a Mennonite. And you're like, oh, okay, I got it now.
Like they never revealed to me like the truth at any point. So that was like a horrible moment.
On this
when I was
episode
in
of
my
Hey the Parents,
20s.
we used to reference Mennonites. That's
Right.
fantastic.
But then with my, and I was like, I'm going to do one better than my parents. I'm not going to tell them that he went to some farm. So every time we visit some country that they're going to be like looking for the dog. I'm just
A
going
room
to
full of
say,
crying children.
right. I'm just going to say that Tiffany, who was my dog, and my kids knew the dog up until like, probably Julian was 2. That she that she went to the nursing home instead.
Oh, that's
And
right.
there's a little doggy nursing home, and Sophia was like, she was sad that Tiffany wasn't there anymore. But then she was like, oh, okay, she has like little friends. I'm like, oh yeah, has friends, and
They play shuffleboard.
she's like a little wheelchair, and she like sits by the sun. And then like, remember I brought in like the letter that Sophia wrote to Tiffany,
yes.
like that we all missed her.
Oh, man.
to hang up on her wall in her room. So yeah, I learned that
She sits in a rocking chair waiting for a family to visit.
I know. So maybe that wasn't the best idea. I think eventually I did tell them that Tiffany did pass away, like at the nursing home. Oh yeah, that's right. I was like, I gotta bring this like lie somewhere else. So I was like, so more lies on top of the
Yeah,
lie.
I was gonna say, keep going. Make the
Gotta
pile,
make it really
higher.
elaborate.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm like, guys, I just got news that Tiffany passed away at the nursing home. And they're like, oh no. I'm like, but she was okay. She had her friends with her. And they're like, oh, okay. And I was like, all right, cool.
That's like almost saying like, as a parent, we all go through a tooth fairy certification training course where we actually get about 5% in return for all this stuff. So when we put the money underneath, we're actually working for her.
Yes, right. So they're like, yeah, exactly. So, like that was like the way that we handled that situation. Maybe I could have handled it better. I just wasn't ready because Sophia was like 5 years old and I just didn't have the heart to like destroy it for her.
Doesn't this kind of come down to though, like, I mean, our society, maybe like where we were as younger, like it's almost like cute pets versus other pets. Cause like fish and other things, like, I don't know, like unless you have like the one fish tank with one fish,
I know.
that's probably different than having like a fish tank with like 12 fish in it. Like,
right.
Cause they're on a rotation.
And then you just kind of chuck them out and you're like, oh, bye.
Yeah, they're like, oh.
Bye Nemo 1, bye Nemo 2.
Say hi to the Ninja Turtles. And you're like, yeah.
Bye Nemo 3.
Yeah. This one's green. The other one's blue. Who knows? So there's another thing that I think that it was interesting kind of growing up too, was that we would go to, we're jumping topics again. We're just jumping. So we went to Florida. My parents, I think I mentioned this before, my mom's parents, they moved to Florida my grandfather and my grandmother. My grandmother works in the library. My grandfather was actually a bagel baker, and he had pretty bad asthma and stuff. And when he got to a certain point, they decided they would move to Florida to retire because the weather was warmer, it was better for his asthma, that sort of thing. So they moved, and we would go down there pretty much once a year. We usually go like during Easter Passover break. So we were there for Passover, and their neighbors, they sometimes we stay at a house because we kind of outgrew being there with them, or just the kids. We would stay there with my grandparents, and my parents would stay at like a house or a hotel. They probably got a little break from us. They probably loved it.
Right.
So anyway, so we would go down there, and I remember my my grandparents' friends would make my sister and I an Easter basket.
Oh.
And we had such mixed emotions about it because we were like we didn't know if like my parents would be mad or like, well, we don't celebrate Easter, but like, how did the Easter Bunny know? Like this opened up a whole door of conversations.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then like it was kind of like one of those things where like we were like, all right, I'm thinking that there's no such thing as Easter Bunny. It's like unless the Easter Bunny's so kind that even the kids that celebrate Passover get a basket.
Right, exactly. Like, oh, he's all inclusive. I love the Easter Bunny.
By the way, total side note, I did find it absolutely hysterical that those big chocolate bunnies were completely hollow inside.
Yes.
They like crack them, it's like nothing in the middle, you know?
It was always disappointment. I don't know what I expected when I bit into those things.
Yeah, like it's
like I wanted something
you could
more.
almost like now as an adult you could almost like know exactly what it's gonna taste like.
Yeah.
Like that like overly sweet milk chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah.
It kind of melts. But yeah, no, like with the Easter Bunny, Jean and I. So here's the funny thing.
Yeah.
With Easter, Jean was into like, helping to hide the eggs and stuff like that.
Yes.
Because it was just fun. It was like, the Easter Bunny brings a little basket of treats and goodies. And basically, like, guys, like the 99-cent toys that are there and they break in a day and something like that. But then, like, with Santa Claus, Jean wasn't into it for whatever reason.
Like the mystery of it all?
The mystery,
or like
yes, because he was, like, he didn't grow up with Santa.
Okay.
That was not a thing in his household.
So he felt removed from
and
it
in
completely.
his culture. Yeah. So for him, it was just a crazy idea of like, well, I bought the presents. The kids should be like, thanks, Mom and Dad.
Oh, interesting.
For buying me the presents.
We're not going to give this mythological mystery man the gift
this
for
guy that just creeps
credit.
into your house, And then I would fight with him. I'm like, no, we have to have at least one present from Santa because I would want all the presents from Santa and then like one or two big presents from us. And he's like, no, all of them should be from us and maybe one small thing from Santa. So that was like our big debate for like years and years and years. Like I would be like, oh, this one's from Santa. He's like, nope, that's from me. And I'm like,
but they really want this. No, that's for me too.
Yeah, that's for me too as well. I'm like, okay, what can Santa bring? The socks? I'm
the
like,
sweater.
This is not fun. But he did good-naturedly play along when I like did the stencils on the floor with the flour and the glitter and like the fireplace was slightly open and the cookies kind of bitten into.
When you said stencil on the floor, I kind of pictured like almost like a body outline of like Santa. I'm like, did something happen? I'm like, oh man. So like
that's a different story.
That's what I So the kids like obviously like they must have, I guess since you still made one gift from Santa, so they still must have kind of believed like the whole thing.
They did still believe.
Okay.
And we went to like Santa events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think the Santa that we used to go to, he was a very good one. So the kids were convinced. But
mall Santa doesn't
it
mess
was,
around.
and so again, like it's like that debate. Like, do you lie to your kids about like giving presents and like, 'cause we work so hard and things aren't so easy nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, and you want to make sure like your kids are grateful to you, but you want to keep the magic like for the season or whatever situation you're kind of doing,
It's a weird thing because like sometimes like I feel like, I know this is like a side conversation, but I feel like sometimes like when we go somewhere like a vacation, family vacation, and like everybody has situations on family vacations where the kids getting a little tired, a little annoyed, getting a little cranky, and like sometimes I'll be like, guys, like we want you to have a good time, like we had to pay for this, like we came up with the money for this, like we want you to be appreciative of it. And my wife will be like, they don't need to hear about the money, but I'm like, no, I agree with you. Like, they don't need to hear about like the money and why we did it. I don't want them to feel guilty about it, but I just want to be appreciative,
Yeah.
So it's a weird feeling like when those holidays come. Like, I never thought about it that way because like I'm Jewish. Like in Hanukkah, there's no mystery person. Yeah. So like we have a different feeling of that. But usually being Jewish, also it's like a countdown from the eight. Like the first night's the greatest gift in the world, and like when we grew up, night 8 was like a pack of gum. So like the thing, like
oh,
it's
really?
slowly
I thought it was like a build up.
No, like I think every family's different. It could be for other families, but I think most times we try to like make the big gifts we kind of sort of like look at the week, sort of kind of.
Oh, okay.
And then we look at like, oh, well, the weekend's coming up. They might want to play a video game on the weekend.
Yeah,
so why don't we put that around there? You know,
That
whatever it
makes
is.
sense, that makes
But like
sense.
we, it's just the kind of thing we want them to be appreciative. But the thing that was kind of interesting is like when Christmas would come around for me, like, the stereotypical, like, we could get Chinese food, the movies are open. But like the feeling is like that was a weird feeling too. And I think like as a kid that grew up in schools that were mostly like Catholic, Christian, whatever, like I was one of the very few Jewish people. So like it was a bummy kind of situation on Christmas because you'd be like, you could get invited over, and then it was like the weird feeling of like especially if it was like a religious-y kind of situation.
Okay.
You'd be like, I don't know what to do. What do I do with this thing? Like
yeah,
where
like
to
a lot of
fit in.
pressure, yeah.
But I still, as a kid, I still believed in Santa Claus, even though I'm Jewish. I still believed in Santa Claus, and sort of like just like wanted to believe, and I think that was good enough, And I still kind of like, because I've been, obviously, like, there's always like the big argument, like keep Christ in Christmas. So it's not, the whole thing about like whatever, but that's a weird thing because like my parents sort of like didn't say it was real or fake, just kind of danced around it and are like, what do you think?
Yeah, because I think what your parents, or even like with the Tooth Fairy, you know, it's just the idea that you want to create something special, a special memory, or make something that seems so scary, not so scary, and you're trying to keep like their innocence, and like because childhood goes by so fast, let alone nowadays,
right?
So it's like, I get like we should be honest with your children and they don't need to know the nitty gritties of like, hey, mom and dad worked overtime in order to get this vacation or this toy. But, it's somewhere between like a balancing act. Like you shouldn't probably lie about the big stuff, but maybe like a small little fib here and there.
But like, I don't feel the need as a parent, and I could be on my own island here. It's fine. Everyone's going to have their own feelings. I'm not the kind of person that feels like I have to expose my kids to everything right now because God forbid, like whatever. I don't feel that. Like we do talk about things like, God forbid, it was a circumstance, you have to be able to talk about the private parts, properly, and be able to identify things and whatever else. But like, I don't feel the need to be like, and this is how pregnancy works. And this is how, like, I'm not, they're too young. Like I get, every parent's different and they'll do what's comfortable for them.
Right.
But like things that aren't going to affect them near and dear to their hearts, that they could have like the magic is still alive. I think it's okay to let the myths kind of be what they are and enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah. Or like, like little, like my friend, she said that like in her culture, she's Chilean.
Yeah.
That they believe in like little gnomes that like, live in the kitchen and like they like run around the house.
Is that
and,
like part of Christmas or just in general?
No, just like in general, like little gnomes that kind of like do stuff.
That's the coolest mythology ever.
Like they're mischievous. So like if they hear like a door close or like a creak in the house, they're like, oh, the little gnomes are running around the house or something like that. So
I wonder how often the kids like flip it back on their parents and like they didn't clean up something in the house. They're like, oh, sorry, must be the gnomes.
No, the gnome spilled the milk, So I have to ask her about that. But like, I think that's a cute little like fib. Like, like, so if something creepy in the middle of the night or something and you're like, you hear like something like instead of like, it's a ghost.
It sounds like you almost said the lyrics to Ghostbusters.
Right. Something creepy in the neighborhood.
If it don't look good.
And if it doesn't look good, it's a gnome.
There was a thing where in like my parents like to remind me of like stuff that happened, whatever. And apparently like one time like my room was a total mess and they were like, what do you do? Like, you didn't clean up. And apparently I told them like the ghostess did it. I mean, they must have thought it was so funny at the time or like, whatever. Like this kid really trying to pull it over us, or he's seeing things that aren't there. But like, what's wild is like in Judaism, like when you do Passover is a funny holiday because, obviously it goes into like, leaving Egypt and like the plagues and like all these things are so insanely over the top. And like, I mean, like most things are, but like the burning bush and like, all this stuff with like, the plagues and stuff. But like, there's a part of the holiday, which I always forget about because it's just like some small part of it where you're supposed to like take wine and put it in a cup. And then you take that cup and you put it like outside or by the door. And then Elijah's supposed to come and drink the cup and you're not supposed to see it. So like for me, I find this to be the funniest thing. So like, this is completely insane. So like, I would always like joke around and be like, how many houses did Elijah go to? I mean, you can't keep drinking this much wine. I mean, that guy's got a problem. You got arrested.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, there's like, that obviously was going to evaporate and like, you're supposed to believe like, oh,
Right, like,
but like, that's like one of those things that like, they would try, like parents would try to like, not so much allude to what was really happening. Yes. But my dad being my dad, would be like, what do you think happens? It evaporates, But like, that was like, it's like very funny because I think like every religion every holiday, there's always some aspect of it where there's got to be something where like there is some sort of thing that you have to, believe, have a little faith in the story or things that really maybe the parents know about something and they don't allude to it in maybe the actual way, but you believe in the excitement of it as a kid.
Yes, I agree with that.
Like the pot at the end of the rainbow, right?
Yes, I mean that was another one. Like back in the day, I wasn't prepared for the mischievous little leprechauns because again, not growing up Irish.
Right? Who would have known?
Not being Irish, I didn't know like the little leprechauns came to your house and like knocked things over, and there was like a little like treat for you. I was like, another holiday with another treat. I was like,
shocking.
Dear Lord.
I know, more stuff to unwrap, more candy.
Sophia like one day was like, Mom, is the leprechaun coming to our house? And I was like, leprechaun, our house? Why? And I was like, oh, I tried to get around it. I was like, oh baby, we're Spanish and Caribbean. The leprechaun's not coming to our house.
Okay, is Los Leprechaun coming to the house?
Right, I was trying to get away from it. And she was like, but he's going to come to like our classroom probably. And I'm like, oh man. I was like, grumble. I'm like, we'll see what happens. So then like I had to like Google it quickly. I'm like, what is this leprechaun and what does he do?
That's so funny.
And like you make like a leprechaun catcher or something like that. And I was just like, oh geez. I was like,
oh, you're right.
I wasn't in the mood to catch. I wasn't in the mood for another lie where it costs more money.
You're like, Sophia, my lie list is so big now that I don't even know what the lies are about lies now.
I'm like, I gotta remember my lies have lies.
Oh my God. One day Ethan came home from school and he told us that in Ben's classroom, they decided, because in school there's like a leprechaun on the loose.
Oh, okay.
They told the teachers, poor teacher who's like not even like first year teacher, and they told her that they wanted to set up a leprechaun trap. They were going to find this leprechaun and double check for her like fingerprints.
Get it?
This poor teacher must have been like first year, like, oh my God, I can't say no, I can't say yes. What are the kids doing when they asking me? Right. We're like, please stop asking this poor teacher about setting up a leprechaun trap. Elaborate plans, matching up fingerprints to see if like the gym teacher was doing it or if it was really a leprechaun. I'm like, Ethan, you got to calm the heck down.
Right. Oh my goodness.
I'm like, I don't know how much we want to allude to the truth here, but maybe just give that person a break. And I feel like, okay, there's got to be times too where like, as parents, I feel like we definitely have this situation where our kids, like obviously we got, in this conversation, we've talked about things that we do, like maybe it involves getting to sleep at a certain time or getting in bed or like, whatever it is. We get how time can be different. I know my wife had a coworker that would put stuff on the windows in the kids windows to make it seem like it was nighttime earlier. I get it. People do things. I'm not judging, but there's definitely some things that happen, and I think that maybe we're both in a circumstance where now you have kids that are a little bit older now, where you have like a younger one in the house.
Oh yeah.
And they sort of are they're in the in club where they kind of know, and then the younger ones are still kind of like in the beauty and the excitement of the story. So like Jacob will like, he'll be like in on it, I guess, in a sense, like parent number 3 with Noah. And it's just very cute to watch him be like, oh no, you have to go to sleep now. Cause you want to make sure that, that the tooth fairy comes or like whatever it is. He hasn't lost teeth yet, but like whatever the thing is, he does it. You hear this voice coming on like, oh, here comes elaborate story time.
Yep.
And it's very, very cute. It's endearing in a way to see that like the older ones, or once they kind of like know the truth, that the innocence is still kind of there because like they want their younger sibling or cousin or nephew, whatever, to enjoy it or experience it in some way. And
I like the fact that like, like with Sophia and Sonisha, like for what they did for each other, and then now for Julian, is the like just keeping it up. I think it's like being part of the club. Like now you're rising the ranks of adulthold. And there you are. It becomes
a family tradition then, right?
Yeah, and then like they can make it better. They can get better ideas.
Right.
So it's I don't know. I think sometimes it's and I get like again, you want to be truthful for your children, not like what do you do when they might take it to heart when the truth comes out?
Yes.
And they're like traumatized. But I think at the same time, like why not have the family involved? I think it just makes it better. Like it's like a harmless lie.
Well, I mean, let's think about this from another perspective. I'm not trying to like spin it as a good thing, but like we went to Sesame Place when the kids were younger, and we went to Disney last summer. 2 summers ago now. Oh, we're missing Disney. Wow. And there is this moment where you see a famous character from the franchise walk down the street, and there's that moment, and like, are they real? Is that really them? And like, it was so funny because my wife, like, she sort of like maybe wasn't paying attention. She was about to say like, no, that's not the real thing. Oh. And I'm like, yo, wifey, I'm like, so I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I'm just gonna jump in here. I'm like, is there? I'm like, what do you think? And then like, is that Mickey Mouse in a suit? I'm like, no, what are you kidding me? What do you think?
Right.
That's gotta be the real Mickey Mouse. And
Aw.
and then like all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah. And then Noah will be like, yeah, you're right, it is, you know?
Right, like,
and
cool,
like
cool,
we did
cool.
the same thing where like Jacob was a little bit not too old, whatever. We went to Sesame Place for Ethan, and then Noah was really, really young. And we went and there was, maybe Noah wasn't born yet. But anyway, so Jacob was in the know. He knew the situation. And like, even though he knew, he was still very excited to see Cookie Monster. And like, even though like, it's almost like they even to themselves will let the white light perpetuate and be a thing. Because like, just to believe and just to be in the moment. And I think like going to Disney or going to these places and like seeing the characters and seeing Winnie the Pooh, even as a parent, I'm like, yo, look over there. This Winnie the Pooh, we gotta go get him. You know, like you get excited. I get excited. I'm like, I'm gonna go take a selfie with, me and Goofy. Come here, buddy. Let's do it. So like, I think like there's like, that's like, I don't know, whatever it is, the lies that perpetuate, whatever they are. But I think like for that alone, like in the moment, like you just kind of have to let them enjoy it, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Do you ever tell a lie just to kind of make your life a little easier? You
like getting a Diet Coke right now for my wife, or
Right.
no, I'm just kidding, honey. No, I mean like sometimes
Like
you
to the
do it,
kids, you
yeah,
know?
like because like if you're
when the kids went to take a shower, I'm like,
Yes.
I'm like, you don't want all the bugs to crawl on you.
and then like then you're then there's money in the therapy jar. It's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly.
But there's like things, I think the things that come to mind, I can't think specifically, but I think that whatever things that we do for our kids where it comes time to get out of the house or like get through a meal or like get them to bed on time before on vacation, it doesn't matter because sometimes these things just create these amazing moments for our families where we could, even the older ones get involved and we look back on it and they make for some great photo albums and great stories down the road. And someday we'll be sitting around a table where they ask us, was that thing real? I'm like, I have a lot of thoughts about Pennsylvanian dogs. But I think the question this week for our listeners is how do you intentionally or unintentionally tell stories for your kids and have those situations worked out in your favor or not? So we'd love to hear from you. If you have an answer to this question, have comments or questions for the show, you can get in touch with us one of three ways. You could leave a message on our Hey the Parents voicemail line at 559-537-5437 or 559-LAY-KIDS. You could email the show at heytheparents@gmail.com, and you can join us on Instagram, so check the socials in our notes for that. So we're back for this part of the show. It's called Time to Unplug. This is where we talk about things that are just going on outside of the children, because sometimes we just have to have something for ourselves or with our spouses. It gives us a chance to decompress because you know what? You'll be a better we if you take care of me. And as always, we'll start out with Sara D.
Hey, what's up? So, okay, my time to unplug is Worst Roommate Ever on Netflix. It's on its second season. It's a true crime-ish reality, or real life, I should say real life episode. And it goes about like, I never roommated with anyone. I didn't go to college. I went to college, but I stayed home. I was a commuter. And then
You got a husband now.
I got a husband that's my roommate, but he's not the worst roommate ever. But
that's a nice. You should put that on an anniversary card.
I know, not so bad roommate. So anyhow, it's just about basically what it is: the worst roommates ever people have, and some of these people are really kooky. And you look back and you go, thank goodness, either A, I had better roommates, or B, I didn't have any roommates, so I never experienced this. It's horrifying. Some of them is they turned out to be a killer, or they turned out to be a stalker, or something like that. Something horrible. But me, I love anything like that. So
I have to say, what's funny is Sara always, it's not intentionally, but Sara always brings most of the time you bring sort of a really interesting or historical thing or not highbrow, but it's really it involves actual thinking and thought and so sometimes when you come with something like this, it's a little bit more fun, chill, to watch. I'm this is perfect for me. I can watch this. Because sometimes at night when you're you finally get the kids down and you're I need to watch something. I should probably be asleep right now, but I need a moment to decompress.
Yes.
What do we want to watch? And this is perfect. I want to put this on the list. This is great.
Awesome.
So I want to tell you today about, there's a website that someone showed me from work. I had one I know I talked last week about, whatever, but we're gonna get to what we do in the shadows next time because I'm only on the second episode of the season, so I want to get at least caught up to where the episodes are before I say about that for my Parenting Unplugged. So Bandle.com is really fun. So okay, so you kind of need your headphones, but I think most people are doing Wordle and things like that, or like, the one that looks like crossword. What's a crossword puzzle one? Strands. I love Strands. That's my favorite.
Strands, yeah.
So Bandle is interesting. If you have headphones, you have your phone, works really well. What it is basically if you're into music, like pop music, whatever it is, or music growing up, what it does is it knows a song, and what it does, it has you try to guess the song with as least amount of notes or like parts of the song as possible. So it has like almost like a computerized version of a song, and then you could be like, just play me like the drum beat, or just play me like a little bit of the background music, and then you could try to guess it, and you could start typing in the name of the song and guess what it is, and then like the with the least amount of clues or usages as possible, like without using the majority of the song, the vocals or everything else, you could try to guess what it is. And it's actually really fun. And I think what's really interesting is like you are surprised with like what you actually remember song wise, because like some songs that are like, obviously like come on, feel the noise, that drum beat in the beginning, like what a random song for me to pick. Like some songs like really have that like very iconic like drum beat or that doom. So like there's some songs like you really know, but it was really fun to try it out. So I think like, am I gonna do it every day? No, probably not. But like, it feels like a fun extra little random app to have, because like when you finish scrolling through Twitter and Instagram and you're like, well, did my strands, is sometimes having like another little thing to do. So
yes, I love
Bandle
things like
is
this.
really cool. Bandle.com is kind of fun.
I'm here for it.
Awesome. So I think this was a fun episode. I think we're just about out of time on this episode of Fantastical Beasts and Lies We Tell Our Children. We talked about growing up, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, pets moving to farms in Amish country, all kinds of things that we do, especially when it comes time to meeting characters such as Mickey Mouse and Goofy, and what it might be like to just let the kids believe what they want to believe, because those little elves and leprechauns, they cause some trouble. So we'd like to take a special moment to thank our listeners and supporters for donating to the show. If you want to help this show so we can keep making episodes like this one, we have a link to donate in the show notes. If you don't have the means to do so, then we really would appreciate if you tell your friends and family about the podcast so we can reach more listeners. Maybe we can learn from them and they can learn from us in our growing community. If you get a chance, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We can't wait to explore this parenting thing with you next week on Hey the Parents, because every week it's an honest discussion about raising kids. Don't forget to hug your kids and charge those Chromebooks. That's going to do it for me and for Sarah. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey the Parents is produced by Mike Levine, Sara Desravines, and me, Michael Haidt. I edit and mix our show. Our intro voice recording was done by the one and only Coltrane. If you like our show, we hope you consider going to our show notes, help support the podcast. Check the show notes for social media information and context, so we look forward to seeing you next time. And if you're feeling inspired for some good old-fashioned Dungeons & Dragons, check out Campaign the Podcast. See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.